Hey guys, having trouble sleeping tonight again? The sheets feel too warm, the fan hums like it's practicing for a talent show, and your brain is probably still replaying that awkward thing you said 3 years ago at a birthday party. Don't worry, you're not alone. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story that stretches far beyond our own troubles, all the way back to a time when creatures bigger than buses stomped across the earth. I bet you won't survive more than 1 minute listening without your eyelids beginning to droop. And if you do well, congratulations. You've outlasted a T-Rex, at least in terms of patience. If this story brings you peace, please like and subscribe to our channel. Settle down, listen carefully, and together let's enjoy this tender tale that will help you drift off into the most delightful, restful sleep. Before we start, let me invite you to breathe out all that tension. Maybe whisper to yourself what's been on your mind today, your feelings, your worries, your little victories. Share them silently with the night as if the stars above are listening, because they are older than any problem you'll carry. Rest your head, slow your thoughts, and together we'll step into a soothing place where dreams begin to bloom. And so the story begins. The world is lush, humid, and alive with the scents of pine ferns and wet soil. This is the Cretaceous period, about 66 million years ago, a time when dinosaurs dominate nearly every corner of the planet. Herds of duck-billed hadrosaurs migrate across floodplains, leaving wide paths beaten into the earth. Towering sauropods move with the slow gravity of mountains on legs, their necks sweeping across treetops like cranes searching the sky. And then there are the predators, sleek raptors with feathers that shimmer in the sun, and the massive Tyrannosaurus rex, whose jaws could snap bone like a breadstick. It's easy to imagine that this was a planet ruled by monsters, but in reality, it's more like a messy, bustling ecosystem. Not too different from today's, just scaled up to outrageous proportions. Think of the African savanna, but swap the lions for raptors and the elephants for 30-ton plant eaters. Scientists know this from fossilized trackways, which show not just isolated prints, but whole traffic jams of ancient life moving through the mud. And the world isn't just dinosaurs. Mammals are around too, though they're more like night shift employees, small, furry, and mostly hiding under logs to avoid becoming lunch. Insects thrive, buzzing through warm, sticky air. Crocodiles, as always, do what crocodiles do, best lurk wait, and occasionally ruin someone's day. Fun fact, some evidence suggests crocodiles back then were even more diverse than today, ranging from dog-sized runners to massive ambush hunters. Imagine trying to enjoy a peaceful riverside picnic under those conditions. At this moment in Earth's history, it feels like the dinosaur kingdom is eternal. They've been around for over 150 million years already, far longer than humans will likely manage. But time has a habit of surprising everyone. What seems invincible can vanish. Scientists are still debating exactly how stable these ecosystems were before disaster struck, whether the dinosaurs were thriving right up until the end or already wobbling on the edge. What is certain is that life everywhere pulses with energy. Picture dragonflies with wingspans as wide as dinner plates gliding over swamps, flocks of pterosaur cousins wheeling across pink sunsets and dense forests where the air is thick with pollen. The sounds are overwhelming low rumbles of triceratops herds, the shrieks of predators, the splashes of reptiles sliding into rivers. It's a living symphony, and you could almost dance to it if you weren't too busy worrying about being trampled. But in the background of this world of giants, the planet itself is restless. Tectonic plates grind, volcanoes simmer, and somewhere in the silent darkness of space, a rock is on its way. That rock is about to gatecrash the dinosaur party, and unlike most uninvited guests, it doesn't plan to leave quietly. For now, though, Earth breathes in rhythm with its reptilian rulers. The jungles are dense, the plains alive, the seas rich with ancient creatures. The stage is set, the players are many, and no one dinosaur, mammal, or insect suspects that everything is about to change forever. Above the busy plains of the late Cretaceous, the sky stretches wide and endless, streaked with soft clouds and the haze of a warm afternoon. Herds graze peacefully, predators prowl in their shadows, and birds chatter in the canopy, as if gossiping about the neighbors. Everything feels eternal, locked in a rhythm older than mountains. But high above, far beyond the gaze of any sharp-eyed pterosaur, something bright stirs in the black velvet of space. It begins as a point of light, faint at first, no more alarming than a star peeking through twilight. Yet night after night it grows, gliding closer unnoticed by the great beast below. This is a 10-kilometer wide asteroid, a rocky traveler that has been orbiting quietly for eons. By sheer chance, or maybe cosmic mischief, it has aligned on a collision course with Earth. If you've ever had a bug fly into your face during a bike ride, you know the feeling. Earth doesn't flinch, but the incoming asteroid certainly will. Scientists today estimate it was traveling at around 20 kilometers per second faster than any jet we've built. That's like circling the globe in just over 30 minutes. Talk about express delivery. Down below, life continues without the faintest clue. A young triceratops munches on cycads, blissfully unaware of any celestial doom. Fish ripple the waters of shallow seas, chased by hungry marine reptiles. Tiny mammals scurry through burrows, snacking on insects that will probably outlive them all. It's almost comical to imagine the entire cast of Earth's drama rehearsing their roles, while an enormous spotlight is already falling toward the stage. Ancient cultures, millions of years later, would often look at comets or shooting stars and think of them as omens, fiery messengers of change. Dinosaurs, of course, don't stop mid-graze to interpret cosmic poetry. They just keep living, stomping and roaring, unaware that their age is teetering on the edge. What's eerie is that the planet itself seems to sense something. Fossil records suggest ecosystems were already in subtle flux. Sea levels had been shifting, climates wobbling. Some areas grew drier, others wetter. Scientists are still debating if the dinosaurs were thriving or if their numbers were already in decline. One quirky tidbit. Some paleontologists argue that flowering plants were reshaping the world at a rapid pace, spreading pollen like confetti and forcing herbivores to adjust their diets. Imagine being a picky eater in a buffet where the menu changes every season, stressful even for a 3-ton hadrosaur. As the asteroid closes in, it begins to burn brighter in Earth's skies. To us looking back, it would be the most terrifyingly beautiful sight imaginable. A streak of light glowing hotter and whiter as the atmosphere grips it, dragging it faster toward the surface. But to the creatures living then, it's just another flicker above the treetops, something they neither understand nor fear. It's a little like that sinking feeling when you realize you forgot to set an alarm before a big exam. You don't know disaster is coming until it slams into you. And for the dinosaurs, their wake-up call is about to arrive in the loudest, brightest way possible. The moment before impact, the world holds its breath. Shadows lengthen, winds stir, and a fiery ball screams across the heavens. Pterosaurs shriek, startled from their perches. Herds glance upward, confused by the unnatural light. Somewhere, maybe the last calm thought of a dinosaur passes unspoken, a flicker of instinct that something enormous is wrong. The skyfire has arrived, and the age of giants is seconds from changing forever. The asteroid does not politely knock on Earth's door. It slams straight through with the force of billions of nuclear bombs detonating at once. It strikes near what we now call the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. carving a crater over 180 kilometers wide. That's basically the distance from New York City to Philadelphia, reduced to a single gouge in the earth. The moment of impact is beyond comprehension. In less than a second, forests vaporize. Rock itself behaves like water rippling outward in molten waves. The air ignites into firestorms that sweep across the continent. Animals standing anywhere near ground zero are obliterated instantly, not even a fossil left behind to tell their story. For creatures farther away, the nightmare comes in other forms. Earth shudders violently. Earthquakes ripple like dominoes, knocking down trees and toppling cliffs. Massive tsunamis race across the oceans, swallowing coastlines. Imagine being a plesiosaur gliding peacefully through warm seas 1 minute only, to face waves taller than skyscrapers the next. Not a great day for fishing. Scientists are still debating just how quickly the shockwaves traveled and how far the devastation spread in those first hours. Some propose that chunks of superheated rock were blasted so high they left the atmosphere only to rain back down like glowing meteors. Picture the world showered with fiery hailstones, definitely worse than your average summer storm. But the most insidious effect comes from what the asteroid throws into the sky. Sulfur-rich rocks and dust vaporize on impact, spewing billions of tons of ash and debris high into the atmosphere. The result is a thick, choking veil that begins to wrap around the globe. Daylight dims. Temperatures drop. The once bright sun is muted, its warmth smothered, as though the world has pulled a dusty blanket over itself. For the dinosaurs, this is a disaster they cannot comprehend. A tyrannosaurus might roar in confusion at the sudden darkening of the skies, its instincts telling it that something is deeply wrong. Herbivores stumble through blackened forests, trying to graze on leaves now coated in ash. Insects and smaller scavengers fare a little better. They can hide in cracks, burrows, and damp corners, but the giants need too much food, too much space, too much stability. Quirky detail. Some evidence shows that tiny glass-like beads called tektites formed when molten rock from the impact cooled as it rained back down. These little space marbles are still found in sediment today, glittering reminders of the day Earth got smacked by cosmic billiards. Meanwhile, across the oceans, the waves churn with chaos. Coastal regions vanish under water walls, dragging plants, animals, and entire habitats out to sea. Coral reefs are smashed apart, sandy beaches stripped bare. The earth is not just wounded, it is scarred. And yet, in the middle of all this destruction, life does what it always does, it clings. Small mammals scurry into tunnels, waiting out the apocalypse underground. Crocodiles sink into muddy rivers, slowing their heartbeat to almost nothing. Seeds of plants remain buried, biding their time until light returns. Survival is a quiet, unglamorous business carried out in shadows while the mighty above ground stumble. Scientists are still debating how long the immediate fallout lasted, whether it was weeks of choking smoke or decades of cold and ash. What is certain is that the asteroid's arrival flipped the script of history in a single afternoon. The world of the dinosaurs, the grand, noisy, stomping, roaring kingdom, was suddenly fragile, balanced on the edge of collapse. In the quiet after the collision, the air still smells of smoke. The ground is hot to the touch. Herds that once shook the earth with their steps now wander, dazed, hungry, and lost. The great collision has happened, and nothing will ever be the same. The days following the asteroid's impact are unlike anything the Earth has ever seen. The sky, once blue and brilliant, turns a sickly grey. Ash and soot billow upward in such enormous volumes that sunlight struggles to pierce through. What should be morning feels like twilight, and what should be twilight feels like the heavy black of midnight. It is as though the planet itself has pulled its curtains shut. For dinosaurs, the confusion is immediate. Herds of hadrosaurs stumble across plains now coated in black dust, their calls echoing without response from distant cousins. A tyrannosaurus peers upward, sensing the loss of warmth, its keen eyes straining against shadows that seem to cling longer each day. The lush ferns and cycads they depend on wilt quickly, their leaves choking under ashfall, their stems breaking in cold winds. This impact winter, as scientists call it, may have lasted for months, even years. Temperatures plummet without sunlight to warm the surface. Imagine living in the tropics and suddenly finding your backyard colder than a northern winter. Crocodiles bury deeper in mud. Small mammals curl together in nests, surviving on hoarded seeds and insects. But for the giants, those with endless appetites, the absence of food is devastating. There's a quirky tidbit that researchers love to bring up. Some of the first climate models scientists ran on computers decades ago were designed not for modern global warming, but to understand this very ancient catastrophe. And their results confirmed what the rocks were already whispering. Dust clouds could have dimmed sunlight by more than 90%. Think about that. 90%. That's like turning a blazing noon into a gloomy evening across the whole planet. And the chaos isn't just about cold. The atmosphere filled with vaporized sulfur produces acid rain. Lakes and rivers turn harsh, burning plants and thinning shells of aquatic creatures. Scientists are still debating whether this acid rain was localized or truly global, but its fingerprints are etched into some fossil layers. Fish die-offs scatter across riverbeds, their bodies preserved as silent proof of poisoned waters. The dinosaurs, who once seemed invincible, now stand bewildered. Imagine a herd of triceratops trudging through dim forests, their horns gathering soot, their massive stomachs growling with hunger. These were creatures adapted for abundance, not scarcity. Their size, once an advantage, becomes a burden. Even the mighty sauropods with their sweeping necks that once reached high treetops find only skeletal branches stripped bare of leaves. Meanwhile, the smaller creatures take advantage. Insects nibble on the dead and decaying. Mammals no larger than modern rats or shrews thrive on flexibility, eating whatever scraps they can find. One could almost picture them peeking out from burrows with cautious satisfaction, whispering, "Finally our time." It's a cosmic version of the underdog story. The silence grows too. Where once the forest vibrated with calls, bellows, and the thunder of footsteps, there is now mostly hush, punctuated by the crack of falling trees, or the distant rumble of volcanic aftershocks. Remember that ominous streak across the sky from before now. It has delivered its full consequence. The world is wrapped in darkness, and it feels like the end of everything familiar. And yet, as history always shows, even endings are beginnings in disguise. Life is battered, but not gone. Seeds lie waiting under the soil. Creatures crouch in hiding, conserving strength. The earth itself seems to pause, wrapped in ash and soot, holding its breath in the dark. The ash-dark skies stretch on, and as days blur into weeks, a new kind of crisis begins. Plants already fragile under a choking blanket of soot falter further. Without sunlight, photosynthesis stumbles. Leaves turn yellow, stems weaken, and entire forests thin out, as though autumn has descended across every continent at once. And when plants collapse, the entire food chain starts to unravel. For herbivorous dinosaurs, this is a slow disaster. Imagine a great hadrosaur trudging through a valley, its nostrils snuffling along the ground for edible shoots. Where once lush ferns and cycads carpeted the soil, only brittle stems remain blackened and cracked like charcoal. Triceratops herds, once majestic in their defensive circles, now grow thinner calves, whining with hunger as they nip at bark that offers little nourishment. The giant sauropods, whose necks once swept across treetops like cranes, now lift their heads to barren branches. For these colossal stomachs, empty landscapes mean doom. And when the plant eaters weaken, the predators follow. A Tyrannosaurus may stalk a limping hadrosaur, but even victories grow hollow when prey itself is starving. Flesh is lean muscle wasted, and herds disperse in smaller, weaker groups. Raptors, clever and fast, try to adapt by scavenging, but scavenging only works while there's something left to scavenge. This domino effect is the cruel logic of ecosystems. Scientists are still debating how quickly this collapse spread. Was it a matter of months, with famine racing across continents like wildfire? Or did pockets of abundance linger for years in sheltered valleys? Fossil evidence hints at uneven survival. Some regions hit harder, others clinging a little longer to scraps of green. But overall, the pattern is clear. When the plants faltered, the dinosaurs' empire cracked. And let's not forget the oceans. With less sunlight filtering through ash-dark waters, plankton, the tiny green engine of the seas, decline rapidly. That spells trouble for everything from small fish to giant marine reptiles like mosasaurs. Imagine being a plesiosaur cruising through cloudy water, your usual buffet reduced to crumbs. Not exactly a five-star menu. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some scientists have speculated that fungi had a brief golden age right after the impact, with dead plants and animals piling up, and little competition from green life fungi may have spread wildly, turning the Earth into a temporary mushroom kingdom. Picture the planet not as a lush jungle, but as a soggy fungal carpet. Less Jurassic Park, more moldy basement park. Predators face a cruel paradox. They're fierce, fast, and armed with teeth sharper than kitchen knives, but their survival depends entirely on prey that can no longer feed itself. Even the mighty tyrannosaurs cannot escape the math of famine. Their strength becomes irrelevant without calories to sustain it. The old image of survival of the fittest falters here, because no matter how fit you are, you can't outmuscle starvation. In burrows and rivers, though, some life persists. Mammals gnaw seeds stored in their nests. Crocodiles patient as stone statues conserve energy in mud and weight. Insects nibble on carcasses, reproducing in staggering numbers. These smaller beings thrive not by dominance, but by resilience. It's a little like the difference between a flashy sports car and an old reliable bicycle. The car dazzles, but the bicycle gets you through the traffic jam. The unraveling of the food chain is not a spectacular explosion, but a quiet, relentless decline. Every bite of food becomes rarer. Every step for survival grows heavier. The age of giants is shrinking not with a bang, but with the grinding hollow growl of hunger. In the shadows of this unraveling world, survivors begin to reveal themselves, not the mighty giants who once thundered across plains, but the quiet, often overlooked creatures that thrive in niches. While dinosaurs stumble under empty stomachs, smaller beings adjust with a stubborn creativity that will eventually shape the future. Crocodiles, for instance, slip almost seamlessly through the catastrophe. These ancient reptiles have always been masters of patience, able to slow their heart rates and sink into muddy waters for months if needed. Where a triceratops needs a truckload of plants each day, a crocodile needs only stillness, waiting for whatever unfortunate creature wanders close. Even as ash drifts across rivers, crocodiles glide beneath the surface, unbothered like scaly ghosts of a fading age. Mammals, too, show their secret advantage. Most are small, furry, and opportunistic creatures no larger than a modern house cat, many more like mice or shrews. They slip into burrows, curling together for warmth as the planet cools. They snack on insect seeds, even fungi. One quirky tidbit fossilized burrows from this era suggests some early mammals lived like underground roommates, huddled together in little chambers while the chaos raged above. Imagine a prehistoric sleepover party, but with fewer marshmallows and more beetles on the menu. Insects thrive spectacularly. Beetles, ants, termites, these tireless recyclers find endless feasts in the carcasses littering the land. While massive predators collapse from hunger, insects buzz over abundance, multiplying by the millions. It's a grim reminder that sometimes the smallest stomachs win the largest prizes. Even amphibians like frogs and salamanders manage to persist hiding in damp mud or sinking into water where temperatures stay more stable. Their soft croaks may still echo faintly in the quiet nights, one of the few voices of resilience left in a hushed, broken chorus. Scientists are still debating exactly why these particular groups, crocodiles, mammals, insects, amphibians, managed to pull through when dinosaurs could not. Was it their smaller size, their flexible diets, their ability to burrow or hibernate? Probably all of the above. What's certain is that their strategies for survival were less about dominance and more about adaptability. Meanwhile, the mighty are not so lucky. Raptors prowl thinner and thinner territories. Sauropods vanish entirely from landscapes that can no longer feed their mountain-sized bodies. The great hadrosaurs, once the lawnmowers of the Cretaceous, grow fewer in number. The Earth that once belonged to giants is slowly yielding to shadows, burrows, and buzzing wings. And in those shadows, the balance tips. Every day the scale leans further toward the adaptable. Life does not vanish entirely. It simply reshapes, shrinking into forms the catastrophe cannot crush. A quirky comparison, think of it like a game of hide and seek. Dinosaurs were the kids charging loudly through the house, knocking over chairs in their excitement. Mammals, insects, and crocodiles were the quiet ones, hiding in cupboards, barely breathing. When the disaster came, the noisy giants were easy to spot and wipe out, while the quiet hiders endured until the storm passed. In the stillness of ash-dark forests, in mud-thick rivers, in underground burrows, the next age quietly waits. The survivors in the shadows are not impressive now they are tiny, easily overlooked, but their persistence writes the next chapters of Earth's story. The ocean's once shimmering blue highways of life turn turbulent in the wake of the asteroid strike. Beneath the waves, chaos unfolds, on a scale as dramatic as anything seen on land. For millions of years, seas have been the true cradle of abundance, supporting creatures from ammonites with spiral shells to mosasaurs the size of buses. But now, even the deep cannot hide from upheaval. The impact itself triggered monstrous tsunamis, walls of water taller than city skyscrapers that thundered across coastlines. Shorelines vanished in minutes, swept bare of plants, animals, even entire forests. Imagine being a plesiosaur gliding lazily, when suddenly the sea floor heaves upward and the water rises not in gentle swells but in towers. No amount of elegant swimming could outpace such fury. Once the waves settled, the oceans didn't return to calm. The atmosphere, filled with soot and sulfur, blocked sunlight, which in turn strangled plankton, the microscopic plants that form the very base of the marine food web. When the plankton faltered, so did everything else. Tiny fish grew scarce, larger fish starved, and great reptiles like mosasaurs and ichthyosaurs faced empty waters. It's the aquatic version of the collapsing food chain already seen on land. Scientists are still debating just how long the marine crisis lasted. Some evidence suggests that entire ocean ecosystems collapsed within mere months. Others propose it was more drawn out, with a few stubborn refugees clinging to stability. Either way, the fossil record is clear. Marine diversity plunged. Ammonites, which had survived for hundreds of millions of years, disappeared forever. And then there's the chemistry. With acid rain pouring from the skies, rivers carried acidic waters into the seas. This made it harder for shelled creatures like clams, corals, and plankton, with delicate calcium carbonate skeletons to grow or even survive. Imagine trying to build a house while the walls dissolve faster than you can lay bricks. That's what it was like for these creatures, whose fragile homes melted away under chemical assault. But as always, some beings endured. Sharks, for example, weathered the storm with their usual stoic efficiency. They've seen countless extinctions before and after, and their cartilaginous bodies and flexible diets made them oddly bulletproof to catastrophe. Rays, too, managed to slip through the bottleneck of survival. A quirky tidbit. Some scientists joke that if Earth were reduced to rubble tomorrow, all that would remain are cockroaches on land and sharks in the sea, true veterans of survival. Meanwhile, in quieter corners of the ocean, small hardy fish and mollusks find ways to adapt. They seek sheltered bays, cling to seafloor nooks, and exploit whatever scraps remain. Survival here, like on land, belongs not to the magnificent giants, but to the flexible and the humble. The ocean's upheaval is profound. Once a canvas painted with vibrant reefs and glittering shoals, it now resembles a dim, hungry expanse. Silence spreads where once great schools of fish shimmered, and empty waters echo with absence. The sea, the source of Earth's earliest life, has become a battlefield of scarcity. Yet even here resilience whispers. The tides still roll, the currents still flow, and deep in dark trenches tiny creatures continue to flicker with life. The oceans will rebuild, but only after countless species vanish into memory. On land, the story grows even more desperate as weeks turn into months after the asteroid strike. Forests, once thick with ferns, cycads, and flowering plants, are now graveyards of withered stalks. With sunlight blocked by clouds of dust and soot, photosynthesis falters, and the Earth's green cloak begins to shrivel. Without plants, herbivores starve. Without herbivores, carnivores follow. Picture a triceratops, once the mighty lawnmower of the late Cretaceous plains. These hulking beasts roamed in herds, grazing endlessly on low vegetation. Now they shuffle weakly through barren fields, their massive frames betraying empty bellies. The once rich prairies have turned to brown wastelands. Juveniles collapse first, unable to endure long famine, while adults stagger on their horns and frills dulled by hunger. Tyrannosaurs, the apex predators, fare no better. Their power relied on abundance, the ability to bring down prey that thrived on endless greenery. But now even a predator's keen instincts cannot conjure meals from emptiness. Fossil evidence shows tyrannosaurs that died young, their bones thin, suggesting starvation rather than battle was their end. The kings of the Cretaceous undone not by rivals, but by an empty table. And yet, not all dinosaurs vanish immediately. Some groups cling to life with astonishing resilience. The smaller bird-like dinosaurs, nimble, feathered, and warm-blooded, prove far better suited to a changing world. Their light frames require less food, and their sharp minds allow for more flexible behaviors. Some dig for insects. Others scavenge what remains. Most importantly, many are capable of flight. Wings provide both escape and opportunity, two gifts when the ground grows dangerous. It's here that we begin to glimpse the origins of modern birds. The ancestors of crows, ducks, and even chickens were among these survivors. While their larger kin fall one by one, these feathered creatures flit between trees, dive into rivers, or forage on scraps. What they lack in size, they make up for in ingenuity and adaptability. Mammals, too, are waiting in the shadows. Small, furry, and often nocturnal, they scurry in burrows or under roots, living lives of quiet survival. Unlike the dinosaurs, mammals never relied on towering strength or endless fields of food. Instead, they've long practiced the art of endurance, gnawing on seeds, insects, and roots, eking out calories where others see none. In the darkness of the post-impact world, such humble diets are worth more than horns, frills, or teeth the size of swords. This moment marks one of history's greatest role reversals. For more than 150 million years, dinosaurs reigned as rulers of the earth, their dominance written in every ecosystem. But the catastrophe levels the playing field. Size, strength, and ferocity no longer guarantee survival. Instead, the meek, the small, the adaptable, the hidden find themselves with the upper hand. Imagine the silence that spreads across the Cretaceous plains as the great thunder of sauropod feet fades forever. The sky, once darkened by pterosaurs gliding on vast wings, grows empty. Where once the earth trembled beneath giants, only the rustle of mammals and the chirps of small birds remain. It is the twilight of the dinosaurs, a fading era, where the magnificent giants falter and the overlooked survivors quietly inherit the earth. In this fading landscape, survivors face a world reshaped by cold. Global temperatures plunge as ash and aerosol scatter sunlight, creating a chilling effect sometimes called an impact winter. For creatures evolved under warm Mesozoic skies, the sudden chill is devastating. Imagine a Triceratops or Edmontosaurus, their bodies built for a subtropical feast of plants, now shivering in frosted mornings they never evolved to endure. Even the mighty predators such as Tyrannosaurus find their muscles stiffening as food grows scarcer and cold gnaws at their strength. But tucked away in burrows, hollows, and caves, some beings adapt in ways the giants cannot. Early mammals, already used to hiding underground during the reign of dinosaurs, become masters of this cold, dark era. Many of these creatures are small, about the size of rats or shrews, and their ability to regulate body temperature combined with warm fur gives them an advantage. They huddle together in nests, feeding on insect seeds and whatever scraps the barren environment offers. Some birds' descendants of feathered theropods discovered their plumage is more than just decoration. Downy feathers trap warmth like a blanket, while lightweight bones and wings allow them to travel far in search of scarce food. Those that can dive into rivers or pick at marine life along coasts enjoy a steadier supply of calories than their strictly landlocked relatives. A fossil from Antarctica even suggests some Cretaceous birds may have been capable of enduring seasonal cold, foreshadowing their resilience now. Meanwhile, reptiles like crocodiles, turtles, and lizards cling to existence in their own way. They cannot generate heat internally like birds or mammals, but their ability to slow their metabolisms helps them ride out the famine. Crocodiles linger in river mud, barely moving for weeks. Turtles tuck themselves into shells and survive on minimal energy. Their strategy is simple: wait and let time pass until the world resets itself. It isn't glamorous, but it works. For dinosaurs, however, time runs out. Fossils hint that some species managed to persist for a while after the asteroid strike, possibly even for decades in remote corners of the Earth. Scientists are still debating whether small populations of hadrosaurs clung to northern latitudes longer than others, like fading embers after a fire. But if they did, their survival was temporary. With each passing season, plant life diminished, temperatures grew erratic, and ecosystems collapsed piece by piece. Yet amidst this ruin, new opportunities quietly bloom. The fall of the giants leaves ecological niches wide open. Where once a Triceratops grazed, now a burrowing mammal scampers to find seeds. Where tyrannosaurs once hunted small predators, seize a chance to multiply. Evolution, relentless and impartial, wastes no time filling the void. It is strange to imagine the very catastrophe that extinguishes one dynasty lays the foundation for another. Mammals, who once lived cautiously underfoot, begin their slow march toward dominance. Birds, fragile though they seem, prepare to take to the skies not as curiosities but as heirs to the air. And here's a quirky thought. Some scientists propose that mushrooms and fungi actually thrived in this bleak new world. With forests rotting and animal carcasses strewn across the land, decay became one of the few flourishing industries. In that sense, the age of dinosaurs may have briefly become an age of fungi, dark, damp, and mushroom-scented. Not exactly glamorous, but someone had to clean up the mess. Through this lens, the extinction is not just tragedy, but transformation. Yes, the giants fade, but smaller, shrewder survivors carve out a future. The earth, wrapped in silence and shadow, is quietly reshuffling its deck, preparing to deal a new hand. As the centuries after the impact unfold, the earth enters what can only be described as a long, cold night. Dust and soot slowly settle, but the planet doesn't snap back to its old rhythms overnight. The skies remain hazy, the climate unpredictable, and food chains fragile. For dinosaurs already weakened by years of famine, it is the last straw. The great sauropods, those colossal, long-necked titans, are already gone. Their immense size, once a shield against predators, now becomes a burden. They need far too much vegetation, and the world simply cannot provide. Predators like Tyrannosaurus too vanish, unable to hunt prey that no longer exists in abundance. Even medium-sized herbivores such as hadrosaurs and ceratopsians gradually disappear, their fossils fading out of the record layer by layer. And yet some intriguing evidence suggests this extinction wasn't instantaneous. In places like North America's Hell Creek Formation, scientists find fossils that seem to suggest dinosaurs lingered for thousands, or perhaps even tens of thousands of years after the impact. With their isolated refugee zones, where pockets of life held out longer, perhaps river valleys or coastal forests offered temporary shelter. Scientists are still debating that, and every new bone dug from the earth feels like a clue in an ancient mystery. But even in those refugees, the writing was on the wall. Without stable ecosystems, reproduction faltered. Nesting grounds lay exposed without sufficient vegetation for cover. Hatchlings, already vulnerable, had fewer chances to reach adulthood. The great cycle of dinosaur life courtship, nesting, herding, hunting, broke down like a clock that had lost its gears. In contrast, the small survivors thrived on resilience. Picture a little mammal, no bigger than your hand, nibbling seeds it had hoarded in its burrow. That modest stash might carry it through weeks of famine. Or envision a bird-like creature darting to catch insects that still buzzed in the warmer months, its feathers puffed against the cold. In a world of scarcity, flexibility was the true crown. It's worth pausing to appreciate just how strange this reversal is. For over 150 million years, dinosaurs had dominated every corner of the earth, from deserts to polar forests. Mammals, in comparison, were the background extras of the Mesozoic, small, nocturnal, and largely unnoticed. And yet, in just a geological blink, the balance flipped. The extras became the stars of the next era. Quirky side note: one theory suggests that some early mammals might have practiced proto-hibernation, slowing their metabolisms during tough seasons. If true, that would have been like pressing a biological pause button until conditions improved. Imagine a tiny fur-covered creature curled in a nest, sleeping away, while the giants outside perished. Nature, it seems, favors the patient. Meanwhile, plants began their slow comeback. Once the atmosphere cleared enough for sunlight to seep through again, ferns were the first to rebound. Fossil records reveal what scientists call a fern spike, a sudden surge in fern spores found in sediments after the impact. These hardy pioneers spread quickly across devastated landscapes, carpeting the earth in green once more. For the dinosaurs, however, this revival came too late. For mammals and birds, it was a buffet delivered just in time. The extinction of the dinosaurs is often portrayed as a sudden fiery apocalypse, but in truth, it was both a moment of catastrophe and a drawn-out struggle. The asteroid lit the match, but starvation, climate swings, and collapsing food webs ensured the flames spread slowly and thoroughly. By the close of this dark chapter, the great thunder of dinosaur footsteps had faded entirely, leaving behind only whispers in stone. In their absence, new creatures stepped forward, small, warm-blooded, feathered, or furry, preparing unknowingly to inherit the future. With the last of the great dinosaurs fading into history, Earth begins to stir back toward recovery. The skies, though still hazy in places, gradually clear as ash and soot, settle into sediments or wash away with the rain. Sunlight, cautious and golden, begins to filter down once more. The land, long smothered under a cold and barren cloak, starts to show signs of green. It begins modestly. Ferns, as we mentioned before, surge across the scarred terrain. These plants are ecological first responders, resilient, opportunistic, and fast-growing. Their spores fill the air, drifting on the wind to blanket the land in green mats. For a time, Earth feels like one vast fern garden where delicate fronds wave over ash-covered soil. Fossil records confirm this fern spike, a botanical comeback party, written in stone. Then come other pioneers, small flowering plants, mosses and shrubs. Within thousands of years, forests begin to reappear. The rebuilding of plant life breathes oxygen back into the atmosphere, and more importantly, food back into the ecosystem. With plants restored, the dominoes of recovery topple forward. Herbivores can graze, carnivores can hunt, and the slow climb out of devastation can begin. Mammals seize this opportunity with quiet determination. No longer forced to live in the shadows of massive predators, they begin to expand into new ecological roles. Some grow larger, exploring plant-based diets. Others refine their predatory skills, filling niches once dominated by raptors and small carnivorous dinosaurs. Within just a few million years, mammalian diversity explodes in a dazzling evolutionary fireworks show. Birds, too, stretch their wings. Freed from competition with pterosaurs, they take to the skies as the undisputed rulers of the air. Over time, their beaks and bodies diversify into countless forms, some designed for cracking seeds, others for snatching fish, still others for probing nectar. If you've ever watched a sparrow hop on your windowsill or a seagull steal your sandwich, you're seeing the distant legacy of these post-dinosaur survivors. And yet, the absence of dinosaurs lingers like a ghost. Entire ecosystems that once revolved around colossal plant-eaters or terrifying predators are gone. Imagine walking through a forest where just a few million years earlier an armored ankylosaurus might have ambled, or a horned ceratopsian might have grazed in herds. Now that same forest hums with smaller lives, mammals, birds, and insects filling the silence once broken by the bellows of giants. One quirky fact: some scientists believe that fungi may have continued to play an oversized role during this period of regrowth. With so much dead material still rotting away, mushrooms and molds thrived. You could say the planet experienced the ultimate composting project, turning the remains of the old world into fertile ground for the new. But debates still swirl around exactly how quickly ecosystems bounce back. Some argue it took just a few 100,000 years, a blink in geological terms, for nature to reorganize. Others believe recovery stretched over millions of years, with the waves of trial and error, as life figured out what worked in the new climate. Scientists are still debating that piecing together timelines from pollen grains, bones, and chemical traces locked in stone. What's certain is that this recovery period set the stage for the Age of Mammals, known formally as the Cenozoic era. This new chapter in Earth's history would never have opened without the curtain falling on the dinosaurs. And while their disappearance feels tragic, it also gave rise to the world we know, a planet shaped not by thunder lizards, but by the quiet persistence of fur and feathers. The Earth, though scarred, is healing. And in that healing, the next great story begins. As plants re-establish themselves and survivors adapt, the Earth begins to look less like a barren graveyard and more like a reborn world. The age of dinosaurs is gone, but in its ashes the age of mammals flickers to life. Picture this new landscape: lush forests return in patches, rivers run clearer, and ferns still dominate. But now small flowering plants spread rapidly, sprinkling the world with colors the dinosaurs never got to fully enjoy. Insects flourish alongside them, buzzing tirelessly, pollinating, and providing an endless buffet for those who dare to eat them. It's a quieter world, yes, but also a fertile one. Mammals, those long overlooked side characters of the Mesozoic, suddenly find themselves with room to grow literally. Freed from the shadow of giant predators, they begin experimenting with size and form. Some stay small and nimble, scurrying through undergrowth. Others slowly stretch into larger bodies, venturing into roles once filled by dinosaurs. Within a few million years, creatures resembling early primates, hoofed grazers, and even small predators appear. Birds, meanwhile, spread into every corner of the sky. Fossil evidence suggests that not all lineages survived. Some vanished with their dinosaur cousins, but those that remained flourished in dazzling variety. Some became expert divers, plunging into lakes and seas. Others developed specialized beaks for seeds or insects. Still others grew larger, resembling the giant flightless birds that would later dominate parts of the world. Imagine walking through ancient grasslands and spotting a bird taller than you, glaring down with sharp eyes, terrifying, and also a reminder of how closely tied birds remain to their dinosaur ancestry. But while mammals and birds step into the spotlight, other creatures quietly endure. Crocodiles continue lurking in swamps, their strategy unchanged for millions of years. Turtles keep paddling through rivers. Sharks remain rulers of the seas, largely unbothered by the chaos on land. Survival doesn't always require change. Sometimes it just requires patience. One quirky tidbit: paleontologists have found fossilized burrows from this time, suggesting that some small mammals may have dug elaborate underground homes with multiple chambers, almost like tiny prehistoric bunkers. Inside, they likely stored seeds or huddled together for warmth. It's a reminder that intelligence and planning, even at a small scale, were keys to surviving the harshest of times. Still, mysteries linger. Did every dinosaur truly vanish? Some scientists argue that certain small populations might have clung on in isolated corners of the globe for thousands of years, ghosts of a lost world. Others reject this idea, pointing to the abrupt cutoff in the fossil record. Scientists are still debating that, and every new discovery could rewrite our understanding of just how sudden or lingering their extinction truly was. What we do know is that by about 10 million years after the asteroid's impact, dinosaurs, as we imagine them horned, armored, towering giants, are gone. In their place, the foundations of modern ecosystems are laid brick by brick. Grass begins to appear, mammals diversify, and the outlines of the world we recognize slowly take shape. The story, though tragic, also holds wonder. The end of one reign opened the door for another. Without the asteroid, perhaps mammals would have remained forever in the shadows, and humans, yes, us, might never have appeared. The fall of the dinosaurs is also the dawn of possibility. The Earth now stands at a crossroads where endings and beginnings intertwine. The dinosaurs, once kings of every continent, have vanished, but their legacy is not entirely erased. In fact, with each sunrise of the new world, pieces of them continue to move, breathe, and sing in the skies above. For the truth is this: not all dinosaurs died. Their direct descendants, the birds, carry on the lineage with quiet persistence. From tiny sparrows to soaring eagles, each feathered creature today is a living echo of the Cretaceous. If you've ever watched a pigeon bob its head in the park or listened to a rooster crow at dawn, congratulations, you've encountered dinosaurs. Maybe not the kind Hollywood promised, but dinosaurs nonetheless. Still, the vast majority of their kin lie silent in the earth, their bones slowly turning to stone. Fossils preserve their grandeur, allowing us glimpses into a vanished world. A triceratops skull reminds us of grazing herds that once thundered across plains. A velociraptor claw hints at hunters that once darted through underbrush. Each fossil is a postcard from the past, stamped with the reminder they were here. But what of the very last dinosaur, the one that stood on the edge of extinction, living in a world unraveling? Scientists can only speculate. Was it a hadrosaur nibbling the last shoots in a dying forest? A lone predator stalking prey that never came? Or perhaps a mother still guarding her eggs even as the skies dimmed above? We cannot know the face of the last, but imagining it stirs something tender, an echo of sorrow for creatures that didn't know they were vanishing. And yet their disappearance reshaped everything. With dinosaurs gone, mammals expanded into roles they could never have dreamed of before. Some evolved into giant herbivores, others into predators, and still others into clever tool-using primates. That path, winding and improbable, eventually led to us sitting here whispering bedtime stories about creatures that once shook the earth. Here's a quirky note. Some paleontologists joke that chickens are the most successful dinosaurs ever. After all, there are more chickens on Earth today than any other bird species, numbering in the tens of billions. Tyrannosaurus may have been impressive, but it never came close to the global reach of Colonel Sanders' feathered friends. Debates remain, of course. Was the asteroid the sole executioner, or merely the final blow after volcanic eruptions and shifting climates? Could dinosaurs have bounced back if given more time? Scientists are still debating that, piecing together fragments of evidence like detectives reconstructing an ancient crime scene. Each fossil dig adds nuance, each discovery reframes the narrative. What's certain is that extinction is not just an end, but also a beginning. The fall of dinosaurs carved space for new life, shaping the future in ways no asteroid could have predicted. Their bones turn to stone, but their spirit lives on in birds, in science, and even in our imaginations every time we marvel at their story. The last dinosaur may be gone, but the echoes of its footsteps linger, guiding us gently into the world we know today. As the shadow of extinction fades, the Earth shifts fully into the Cenozoic, the age of mammals. This is where the story of life takes a bold new direction. Freed from the towering presence of dinosaurs, mammals expand with a kind of evolutionary enthusiasm, testing every shape, size, and lifestyle the planet allows. Forests thicken again, rivers teem with fish, and grasslands slowly begin to spread. In this recovering landscape, small, shrew-like mammals diversify. Some take to the trees, evolving into primates with grasping hands and forward-facing eyes. Others remain ground-dwellers, nibbling seeds and insects. Still others develop hooves, preparing for the future dominance of grazing animals. It's like nature has opened a new audition, and everyone's scrambling for a part. birds, of course, are in on the action. With pterosaurs gone, they rule the skies without competition. Fossil evidence reveals giant flightless species emerging, some towering over humans in later epochs. These terror birds, as scientists call them, dominate South America for millions of years, using massive beaks to hunt. They're a chilling reminder that even after the dinosaurs' echoes of predatory might continue to stalk the Earth. Meanwhile, the oceans remain largely unchanged in terms of rulers. Sharks, ancient survivors from long before the dinosaurs, continue gliding with serene menace. But new players arrive here too. Mammals venture into aquatic life, giving rise to the ancestors of whales and dolphins. Imagine a furry creature dipping cautiously into the water, never realizing its descendants would one day sing songs beneath the waves. Quirky detail for you. One fossil discovery suggests that early whales still had tiny hind legs, awkward little limbs that served no real purpose, but whispered of their land-dwelling past. Evolution is messy, and sometimes it leaves hilarious leftovers. But through all these changes, the ghost of the dinosaurs lingers. Their disappearance remains a kind of backdrop to every success story of mammals and birds. We can almost sense the world testing itself, stretching into shapes that had been impossible before the asteroid struck. And yet, not all scientists agree on how smooth this transition was. Some argue ecosystems bounce back quickly, ushering in rapid diversification. Others believe the Earth remained unstable for millions of years, with survival still precarious. Scientists are still debating that, sifting through ancient pollen grains, chemical traces, and scattered bones for answers. What is clear, however, is that the extinction of dinosaurs created opportunities on a scale unmatched in Earth's history. Without that sudden vacancy, mammals might never have risen to prominence. Without them, primates might never have appeared. Without primates, well, there would be no one here to tell the story. In this sense, the last dinosaur's death was not just an end, but a handoff, a reluctant passing of the torch to creatures too small and too humble to imagine they would one day dominate the globe. The age of dinosaurs was over, but the age of possibility had just begun. The story of the dinosaurs' disappearance does not end with fossils or bones. It lingers in the very fabric of Earth's memory. Every layer of rock, every chemical trace in ancient sediments is a quiet witness to that terrible yet transformative event. Paleontologists, like detectives working an impossibly cold case, sift through these clues to piece together the truth of how the last dinosaurs vanished. One of the most striking markers lies in the ground itself, a thin band of clay enriched with iridium, a metal rare on Earth's surface, but abundant in asteroids. This iridium layer found across the globe is like the scar tissue of the planet, evidence of the cataclysm that marked the end of the Cretaceous. Whenever scientists point to that thin line in the rocks, they're essentially saying, here, right here, the world changed forever. Above that line, no non-avian dinosaur fossils appear. Below it, the bones of countless species. That razor-sharp cutoff is one of the strongest arguments for the asteroid's role in extinction. And yet, debates continue. Some argue that massive volcanic eruptions, like those in the Deccan Traps of India, were already destabilizing ecosystems. Could the dinosaurs have been struggling long before the rock from space arrived? Scientists are still debating that, weighing lava against asteroid, famine against fire. Quirky thought the asteroid itself may have landed in the worst possible place. The Yucatan Peninsula was rich in sulfur and carbonates. When vaporized, those elements fill the sky with choking dust and gases blocking sunlight and triggering acid rain. Had the asteroid landed in a different spot, say deep ocean, perhaps the extinction might not have been so severe. Imagine a cosmic dartboard with Earth taking a hit in its most vulnerable bullseye. Unlucky doesn't begin to cover it. As for the last dinosaur, the fossil record grows silent. Somewhere perhaps, in a lonely valley or forgotten swamp, the final individual walked, breathed, and lived out its days. Did it know its kind was fading? Of course not. Extinction is invisible to the one living it. To that last creature, the world was simply harder, hungrier, colder. Life continued until, for it didn't. And yet, in a poetic twist, the dinosaur's departure made way for everything that followed. The mammals that rose after them, the primates that eventually stood upright, and the humans who now gaze at the stars, all owe their existence to that fiery night when the age of giants ended. The dinosaur's legacy is not only in bones displayed in museums, but also in the very fact that we are here to marvel at them. So the tale of their extinction is both tragedy and origin story, a fiery death for some, but a birth for others. The silence of their last footsteps echoes still not in sorrow alone, but in gratitude for the world their absence allowed to grow. But perhaps the most haunting thought is this: in a way, the dinosaurs never truly left us. Look closely at a hawk in flight, a pigeon pecking crumbs in a city square, or even a chicken scratching the dirt, and you are looking at descendants of those once mighty creatures. Birds are quite literally living dinosaurs. Their hollow bones, their feathers, their nesting behaviors, they all trace back to that vanished age. When paleontologists say dinosaurs are not extinct, they are not being metaphorical. Every swallow that darts through the sky, every crow that caws at dusk is a whisper of the past. The age of dinosaurs never ended. It simply transformed, scaled down, adapted, and took wing. Humanity walks a planet still shared with them, even if we rarely see them that way. And yet, when we imagine the last dinosaur, we tend to think of the great non-avian species, the towering sauropods, the armored ankylosaurs, the swift raptors, the ferocious tyrannosaurs. These were the ones that vanished forever when the asteroid struck. Their absence reshaped Earth's ecosystems, clearing the stage for mammals and eventually us. This duality, the ending and the continuation, gives their story an almost mythical weight. To say they are gone is true. To say they live on is also true. It depends on where you choose to draw the line between past and present. Even the fossil record itself is like a voice trying to speak across 66 million years. Fossils are not just bones. They are messages. They tell us of mass migrations across ancient floodplains of herds that once thundered through fern-filled valleys of predators that stalked silently beneath cycads. They reveal not only the moment of death, but also the rhythm of life. And when we place those bones in great halls of museums, we are not merely arranging skeletons. We are honoring ghosts. The skeleton of a triceratops is more than calcium and stone. It is a monument to endurance, to survival, to adaptation, and finally to extinction. It is a reminder that nothing lasts forever, not even the rulers of the earth. Perhaps that is why dinosaurs captivate us so deeply. They are not just creatures of science, but also symbols of power, fragility, and the vast, indifferent sweep of time. To study them is to glimpse our own fate written in ancient bones. One day our species too will leave behind only traces, and perhaps some distant intelligence will wonder about the last human the way we wonder about the last dinosaur. The story closes in silence with a final shadow, fading in a world of fire and ash. Yet in another sense, the story continues every time a sparrow takes flight, every time a child presses their face to the glass of a museum case, staring wide-eyed at the skeleton of a giant. The dinosaurs are gone, but they are also still with us, reminders that endings are never truly final, only beginnings in disguise. Long after the last dinosaur fell silent, the Earth carried on. The planet itself is resilient, and so is life. With the great reptiles gone, ecosystems reshaped themselves in strange, unexpected ways. Forests slowly returned, but they were quieter than before. Ferns, which had thrived in the dim aftermath of the impact, gave way to flowering plants that took advantage of the changing climate. Insects adapted quickly, filling niches left empty by vanished creatures. Small mammals, once confined to the shadows of giants, now darted into the open, multiplying and experimenting with new forms. It was as if the world had reset itself, beginning a new chapter. The age of mammals rose gradually, not overnight, but each year tipped the balance further. Creatures with fur, warm blood, and complex brains grew bolder. They scavenged, hunted, climbed trees, swam rivers, and began spreading to every continent. For millions of years this new balance held. The dinosaurs were no longer there to dominate the food chain. Their colossal bodies no longer shook the ground or tore through forests. Yet their absence shaped the future more powerfully than their presence once had. Every evolutionary path mammals followed was carved from the space dinosaurs left behind, and still the memory of them lingered. In stones buried deep beneath the earth, their bones endured records of a world that once was. When those bones were uncovered eons later by curious hands, they told stories more powerful than any myth. To early humans, the massive skulls and claws looked like dragons or monsters. To scientists, they became evidence of extinction, evolution, and survival on a scale previously unimaginable. Dinosaurs became more than fossils. They became symbols of deep time. They revealed that Earth is older and stranger than anyone could have guessed. They showed that life is fragile, subject to forces beyond its control. They reminded us that even the mightiest can fall, and that survival often belongs to the small, the adaptable, and the overlooked. Even now, when we imagine the last dinosaur, it sparks awe and sorrow. Was it a towering herbivore that finally collapsed among ferns, or a lone predator wandering through empty canyons? Did it die under the shadow of volcanoes, or beneath a sky that was just beginning to clear? We may never know the details, but the question itself humbles us. Because in that question lies a mirror. If the dinosaurs, rulers of Earth for over 160 million years, could vanish in the blink of an eye, what does that say about us? Our species has existed for only a fraction of that time. The dinosaurs remind us of both the greatness and the impermanence of life. In a sense, their story is not just about the past. It is about the present and the future. We live in their shadow, walk on their bones, breathe air shaped by their extinction. The last dinosaur is not just a vanished creature. It is a reminder written across the earth itself. Nothing lasts forever, but everything leaves a trace. The world turns slowly, and life always finds a way forward. Yet somewhere in the haze of deep time, there lingers the image of the very last dinosaur. A creature standing alone, unaware that it carries the weight of an entire era's ending. It takes a final breath, perhaps under a sky streaked with ash, perhaps in a valley where the plants it once fed on are no longer enough to sustain it. That breath drifts into the air and vanishes just as countless others have. But this one is different. It marks the closing of an age. The earth does not pause. Winds continue to blow, tides continue to rise and fall, and tiny creatures scurry about oblivious to the monumental loss. But if we could lean close enough, if we could listen deeply enough, perhaps we might hear an echo. The soft shuffle of giant feet, the rustle of scales through ferns, the deep call of a beast that once shook the ground. All gone, yet somehow still present. The fossils remain whispering secrets. Stone does not forget. It holds teeth sharp enough to slice bone claws curved like sickles and skulls, larger than an entire human body. These relics are not just remnants of creatures, but messages from time itself. They tell us that survival is fleeting, that power fades, and that adaptability, not strength, often ensures a lineage. Scientists still debate what exactly the last dinosaur was, whether it was a towering herbivore watching forests vanish or a small predator chasing dwindling prey. But the answer doesn't really matter, the story remains the same. And humans much later give that story new breath. We place bones in museums, we sketch their forms, we render them in films and books, and we dream of them as both monsters and marvels. Children play with toy dinosaurs imagining their roars. Adults ponder their extinction with a mix of awe and caution. The last dinosaur lives on in our imagination, shaping how we see the fragility of our own place in Earth's history. The truth is simple and sobering: nothing on this planet is forever. Yet the dinosaurs prove that endings are not absolute. They leave traces, lessons, and echoes that ripple into the future. The very fact that you know of them, that you can picture their forms in your mind tonight as you drift toward sleep, is proof that they are not gone entirely. The last dinosaur may have fallen, but the story lives on. And that story, carried through millions of years, is what tucks you into this gentle night, reminding you of both the beauty and the brevity of existence. Now the story slows, like the fading steps of a giant beast disappearing into the horizon. The details blur, the sharp lines soften, and the urgency of endings melts into something gentler. You are left with a quiet picture, a vast earth turning endlessly, where lives come and go like waves upon a shore. The dinosaurs walked their chapter, then passed it on, as all living things must do. Imagine the last breath of that final creature dissolving into the air, mingling with breezes that would travel across oceans and mountains. That air has mixed, changed, and moved through time, until in a way you breathe it now. You are connected even to something so distant. And isn't that a strangely comforting thought? That the breath of giants could become part of the rhythm that soothes you to sleep tonight. So let go of the noise of today. The worries, the endless thoughts that circle in your mind, they can fade now, just like the echoes of dinosaurs faded into memory. There is no need to chase answers or cling to questions. The earth carries on without hurry, and so can you. Picture yourself resting in a calm place surrounded by soft ferns, a gentle warmth of sunlight that has finally returned after the darkness. No predators, no fear, only peace. The ground beneath you is steady, the air around you is quiet, and time itself seems to pause, allowing you to rest. Breathe slowly as the last dinosaur once did, and know that each breath is a gift. Let your shoulders loosen, let your mind drift, and let your body sink into the comfort that surrounds you. The story has reached its end, but your dreams are just beginning. They wait for you patiently, with landscapes vast and timeless, ready to carry you where you need to go. Good night, traveler of histories. May your sleep be deep, your rest be gentle, and your dreams filled with wonder.